So Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills have made their decision when it comes to who's going to be kicking field goals in 2020. Now the only question is, did they make the right choice? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this roster update edition of Believers Talk, where we go over some of the roster moves made by the Buffalo Bills heading into the 2020 NFL season. Again, guys, thank you for joining me. My name is Joe. If you're new to this channel, guys, please be sure to hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills and Buffalo sports news. After you hit that subscribe button, you want to hit that notification bell. YouTube will notify you when we put out new content like this video, and leave a comment. Do you think the Buffalo Bills made the right choice at the kicker position heading into 2020? And listen, we knew this was going to be a competition, and we knew someone had to win, someone had to lose. In fact, the day of the decision, Coach McDermott said that they might even keep both kickers on the roster due to conditions of the pandemic and not knowing what was going to happen down the line. So let's talk about this competition, and let's talk about if the Buffalo Bills made the right choice. Of course, most everyone knows by now the decision made by Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills. And Buffalo Bills fans already knew that after the draft, after the Buffalo Bills selected a kicker in the 6th round of the NFL draft, that there was going to be a kicking competition in Buffalo during training camp. Now, obviously, training camp has been a little bit different this year than most any other year, but the Buffalo Bills had to do the best they could with the information they had, and there was some information out there the Buffalo Bills could use to their advantage. However, I feel like the Buffalo Bills had a lot of information that maybe went overlooked. Now, I'm not going to question Brandon Beane. I'm not going to question this team's coaching staff. I feel like they've done a great job. However, I don't know if they made the right decision. Again, let me know in the comment section what you believe. We're going to go over the stats of both these guys, what we know about them, and how they've done so far in training camp for our Buffalo Bills. So first, let's talk about the guy that was in Buffalo since 2017. Let's talk about the guy who actually ended up losing the kicking competition. Let's talk about Stephen Hauschka, or just Stephen Hauschka, depending how you refer to him in his later days with the Buffalo Bills. Stephen Hauschka was an undrafted free agent in 2008, and that's where he started his NFL career. He starts on an active roster with the Baltimore Ravens, and he is currently coming into his 13th year into the league. He completed 12 years into the league. Now let's see if he has a team lined up by the time the NFL season begins. I have a funny feeling that you will not be seeing Stephen Hauschka as a free agent for too long. I feel like he still has a lot to prove, especially with the way he was kicked out of Buffalo. So Stephen Hauschka, again, going to be his 13th year in the league, has spent it with 4 different teams. First, he spent time in Baltimore with the Ravens. Then he spent a season with the Denver Broncos. Then, of course, his most successful time was with the Seattle Seahawks before he comes to Buffalo and is a Buffalo Bill. And his career started off strong in Buffalo, just seemed to taper off towards the end after that hit by Anderson of the Jets a few years back. He just hasn't been the same, and it's really unfortunate because Stephen Hauschka was one of the better kickers in the league for a long time. In fact, he tied the record for most consecutive 50-yard field goals made by a field goal kicker, so congratulations to him on that feat. Unfortunately, the last year or two, his numbers have slumped down a little bit, and he just hasn't been the same guy. But let's look at his overall career. So Stephen Hauschka had kicked 85.7% of his field goals accurately through the uprights. So he's an 85.7% field goal kicker. That's pretty good. That's pretty impressive for a career. But if you want to talk about real impressive numbers, look at his playoff numbers. And that's something that needs to be looked at, because when we talk about a rookie kicker in Tyler Bass, who won the competition, he doesn't know what pressure kicks are like in the NFL. Now, when we get to Tyler Bass, we'll talk about some college stats, we'll talk about some bowl game stats that do matter, but he wasn't in a significant bowl game when you talk about the BCS, or not the BCS anymore, but the national playoff. When you talk about these big time colleges playing in big time games, he wasn't a part of that. So how did Stephen Hauschka do in the NFL playoffs? Well, he went 24 of 25 on field goals made, including 4 for 4 in that last playoff game against the Houston Texans for the Buffalo Bills. You're talking a pretty good percentage there. Of course, you're talking about, what is it, 96% field goal percentage, 28 of 29 on extra points. So again, pretty accurate, pretty consistent there at the extra points. And those type of pressure kicks matter. How do you do under pressure? I mean, remember that Houston Texans game where he came on with a few seconds to go and was able to kick the field goal to tie the game up and force the game into overtime. So congratulations to Hauschka on a great career. I'm sure it's going to continue. And when I first heard the news and brought to you live right here on Believers Talk, I said then, and I'll say it now, don't be surprised if Stephen Hauschka has a better 2020 than Tyler Bass, even if it is with another team. So now I want to spend a minute talking about Tyler Bass, the guy who won the field goal competition between him and Stephen Hauschka, and the guy who's going to be the Buffalo Bills kicker for the foreseeable future, at least in the 2020 NFL season. And guys, I think this guy might struggle out of the gates. So I believe that the Buffalo Bills and their fans need to show some patience, give him some time as he's getting ready to be an NFL kicker, or as he's getting adjusted to being an NFL kicker. During the live stream I did on Thursday night, I talked about Sebastian Janikowski, right? Someone who I think is the best NFL kicker that I've seen ever do it with my own two eyes. And in his first season, he only connected on 50% of his field goal attempts. So you have to remember that when looking at Tyler Bass. I do not think Tyler Bass is going to be as good as Janikowski was. However, he does have the leg that Janikowski had, which could come to Buffalo's advantage if he becomes a little bit more accurate. So Tyler Bass was drafted in the 6th round by our Buffalo Bills in the 2020 NFL Draft. And at that moment, Bills fans knew there was going to be a competition at the kicker position for the Buffalo Bills. Again, Stephen Hauschka's numbers been declining as of late, and then Tyler Bass is coming out with that strong leg. So you knew there was a potential for the Buffalo Bills to go in a different direction going into training camp this year. However, Tyler Bass has not had the success in college that Stephen Hauschka has had in the pros. Now, he's had good moments, he's had good times, he obviously has the big leg, but field goal percentage-wise, he does not match up to Stephen Hauschka's 85.7% career field goal percentage. In college, Tyler Bass was only a 79.4% field goal kicker, converting 54 of 68 of his field goals. So when you take a look at those numbers, and you remember that in college they have the wider hash marks, which some say make kicking field goals easier, some say makes it a little bit harder. They have those wider hash marks, so that does come into play when you talk about field goal kicking in the college level compared to the pro level. Also, one thing we want to talk about are extra points. College has yet to adopt the rule of kicking the ball from the 25-yard line. They're still snapping it from the 2. So when you look at Tyler Bass's extra point percentage, obviously it should be a little bit higher than what you get out of Stephen Hauschka. And Tyler Bass sure to form 114 out of 116 on extra points, only missed 2 in his 5 years. He was a redshirt freshman, even though he didn't kick any field goals that year, a redshirt freshman out of his 5 years at Georgia Southern. We talked a little bit about how Stephen Hauschka did in the playoffs, and of course in college, when you play at a place like Georgia Southern, you don't exactly make it to the college playoff all too often. In fact, Georgia Southern never made it to the college playoff, while Tyler Bass was a part of the program. However, they did make it to 2 bowl games, and in those 2 bowl games, Tyler Bass did go 6 for 6, including a 50-yard field goal in one of those bowl games. So pretty impressive out of both these guys when you talk about a postseason resume, right? You talk about Stephen Hauschka going 24 of 25 for a 96% field goal percentage, and you talk about Tyler Bass going a perfect 6 for 6 in the 2 bowl games that Georgia Southern played while he was there. So obviously the Buffalo Bills coaching staff saw something in Tyler Bass during training camp that gave him the leg up. So let's talk about that competition just for a minute, and then we'll talk about if we feel like they made the right decision or not. So if Stephen Hauschka has an 85% field goal percentage throughout his career, if Stephen Hauschka was 24 of 25 in field goals in the postseason, why did the Buffalo Bills feel like they had to go in a different direction? Well, we talked about a little bit earlier in this episode, we talked about the decline of Stephen Hauschka, back-to-back seasons, less than 80% in field goal kicking after that injury that he suffered in 2018 by Henry Anderson of the New York Jets. He just hasn't been the same kicker, and I've talked about it on previous episodes of Believers Talk. Not only were his field goal numbers down, his touchback percentage was also down. So when you think about kicking, not only do you have to think about the field goals, you have to think about where the opposing team gets their field position, right? Where are you starting the opposing team when you kick off after scores, after field goals? And Stephen Hauschka was just a tick above 50% in touchbacks during the regular season in 2019. That's something that the Buffalo Bills coaching staff wanted to see improvement on. And one thing when you talk about Tyler Bass, you talk about that big leg, he's probably going to get a higher touchback percentage than Stephen Hauschka. And again, not only that, when you look at the field goal numbers declining for Stephen Hauschka, it leads to potential for disaster, and in this case, it leads to Stephen Hauschka being without a job for at least the time being. We'll again see what happens as he's currently in free agency. But another thing you want to look at when you think about the numbers between Hauschka and Tyler Bass, not only do the numbers as far as kicking matter, the money matters. The Buffalo Bills are saving roughly $2 million by cutting Stephen Hauschka. Stephen Hauschka, remember, in the right before the 2019 season began, just signed a contract extension, a 2-year, $8 million contract extension that the Buffalo Bills would have had to pay him this season. I think it was due a total of $4.25 million if he would have made the 53-man roster. However, if you look at Tyler Bass's numbers, Tyler Bass is only due to make a little over $650,000 in 2020 by making the team this year. So obviously the money was a big ordeal. And not only did Stephen Hauschka have to outperform Tyler Bass, he had to outperform by over $2 million for it to really make sense. And when you look at the training camp numbers during this competition, Stephen Hauschka might have equaled Tyler Bass, but he definitely did not outperform Tyler Bass. During training camp so far, Stephen Hauschka went 18 for 23. He went 4 for 8 on field goals over 50 yards. So we talk about his leg. In fact, he missed 2 52-yarders short during his time in training camp trying to make those long ones. Listen, Tyler Bass, you could say whatever you want about his accuracy. He's not going to miss a 52-yarder short most of the time. In fact, Tyler Bass had more opportunities during training camp, and he actually had a little bit higher of a better percentage than Stephen Hauschka. Tyler Bass goes 29 of 36 on field goals, including 5 for 9 of 50-plus yards. So just a little bit better than Stephen Hauschka, but again, a little bit better by the rookie who's only going to make $650K is enough to get the job done. Again, he might feel some pressure this season. Luckily for him, fans are not allowed in the stands, at least at the early parts of the season. Might make those pressure situations a little bit easier to handle for Tyler Bass. Hopefully, the Buffalo Bills are not in too many pressure situations. But again, the NFL, a game of inches. So Tyler Bass will have plenty of opportunity here to prove what he is worth. But like I said in the beginning, Buffalo Bills fans might have to be patient against Sebastian Janikowski, only converted 50% of his field goals his rookie year. Personally, I think the Buffalo Bills may have made a mistake here. I really like Stephen Hauschka. Again, I go back to going 4 for 4 in his last game as a Buffalo Bill. I think that Stephen Hauschka may catch on somewhere, and he may have a better season than Tyler Bass. However, when I say that, I also realize I don't have the resume that Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills coaching staff does. So when I question this move, I also realize that they're the professionals and they have made a lot of great moves for our Buffalo Bills. So why not show a little bit of faith in this front office, in this coaching staff to say, hey, you guys see these guys every single day. You know what they bring to the table. You know what the Buffalo Bills need most to succeed. And in this case, they chose Tyler Bass. I wish nothing but the best for Stephen Hauschka. I feel like he's been a great asset to the Buffalo Bills, not only to the team, but to the community since he's been in Buffalo in 2017. So I wish him nothing but the best. But the Buffalo Bills going with Tyler Bass. So again, let me know what you think in the comment section. Did the Buffalo Bills make the right decision? Again, I'm on record right now saying I don't think they did for this year. Again, you're talking about postseason success. You're talking about best chance to win right now. That probably is Stephen Hauschka. However, if you look towards our future, you might want to get the younger kicker. You might want to get Tyler Bass if you feel like you can mold him into a Sebastian Janikowski type. Now's a good time to jump on that. Keep him on this team. Let him know that you believe in him and see what the future holds. But again, let me know what you think in the comment section. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button, like this video. And guys, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. A lot of great stuff coming in 2020. So you want to make sure you're right here. So subscribe, hit that notification bell. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.